Welcome into SportBet Extra. I'm your host, Paul Rami, here every Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Today is December 2nd, 2025. We are back after the Thanksgiving break. I hope everyone had a great, wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you guys ate a lot, saw a lot of family, got a lot of bets in over the weekend. And we are back and ready to go to end the month strong. We're going to talk about a little bit of a recap what happened over the weekend. We're going to talk some college football, some NFL, talk about the plays that we had last night going 1-2. Unfortunately, not the best, but that's okay because we will bounce back. Talk a little bit about the NBA betting strategy that we've got going on and get into some college basketball action tonight. So let's get this show started. Okay, so let's start by putting up where we are monthly. So October, we began the show late October, and we ended up plus 3.36 units in October. November, I'd say, was a pretty solid showing there with plus 19.78 units. Again, $100 better. You were up in the month of November, $1,900, almost $2,000 there just by tailing all the picks. Again, you can see right there at the bottom, everything over at sportbetextra.com. That's where you're going to get all my plays, and we'll continue to get them. And please go check it out now. We've got a great deal going on weekly, monthly, 3-month memberships there have been reduced a lot. So go check it out and get you a subscription. Why not? It pays for itself. So there's where we are for October and November. Now let's look at the overall record again. That's everything combined here. We've been plus 21.86 units. So NBA 18-8, that continues to be a winning record there. College basketball 45-31, same thing. We continue to win there. Again, no change in MLB. NFL moves up just a tad to 11-9, and college football slowly making our way back. 6-11-1 there for college football for a total of 21.86 units overall. Again, yesterday 1-2 was not the best. We did have our betting strategy in effect last night for the NBA, and that was an easy winner. So far, looking at the betting strategy, it is currently 8-2 on the season. 80%, guys. If you give me a strategy that's hitting 80%, I'm taking that. So if you're betting NBA, if you just bet the NBA betting strategy and that's all you're betting so far this season, you'd be 8-2. You'd be up significantly, putting your big bets on that. Excuse me, and yeah, you'd be cashing. So we do have a play on December 4th for the NBA betting strategy. Then it's going to kind of take a back seat for about 2 weeks. After that, there will be quite a few plays to end December on the 19th, the 20th, a couple, 23rd, Christmas Day. So we've got a lot of action that'll be happening near mid to end December for the betting strategy. But again, on the 4th, we will be talking about that one, what we've got going on that morning to get into our NBA betting strategy. So just keep an eye out for that as well as we continue to work with our betting strategy and just continue to, again, track results on that, hit 80%, and there we go. So that's what we had for last night. UAB, we lost that one there, -2.5. They looked solid first half. Second half, you could just kind of feel they weren't up to the task there. And then Tyrone Tracy over 2.5 receptions, gets injured in the fourth quarter, so that was no good there. So we do end 1-2 on yesterday's plays to start December, and we will look to bounce back today as we got a huge slate of college basketball action. Let's recap quickly, though, college football over the weekend. I'm going to put up here what we have for the top 25 currently. All right, so it's kind of cut off there. Sorry about that. But of course, number one, you've got Ohio State there. number 2, Indiana. Those two are going to be playing each other. You can see here next week, really not going to make that much of a difference for that game. Georgia will be taking on Alabama. Again, that could be a tough one there, because now if Alabama, let's say they drop down to 10-3, well, then what does that mean? Does that mean you put Texas up ahead of Alabama at 9-3? I don't know about that one. So, that's going to be kind of a fun one to watch. Texas Tech there against BYU. Should have no problem taking care of BYU again. But what if BYU wins it? Now they get the bid, and then you still got to put Texas Tech in, and that's just a whole big mess there. That, is going to be very interesting. And then you see there at the bottom, Virginia Duke. Now, what's really interesting here, right, is the way the college football playoff works. They're going to take the top 5 conference winners, no matter the conference. So you've got Big Ten up top. It's going to be either Indiana or Ohio State. You've got your SEC. That's going to be either Georgia, Alabama. So Alabama really needs to win this one. Georgia is going to be in regardless. Big 12, you're looking at either Texas Tech or BYU. Of course, Texas Tech wants to handle business there. Otherwise, BYU is going to steal a bid, and they'll be in. And then you look down at the ACC. What was projected in the preseason, you had Clemson, right? You had Florida State. Now look where we are. Virginia and Duke in the ACC championship game. If Duke pulls off the upset against Virginia, and then you scroll down a little bit more, you see the 19th ranked, 20th ranked team. If James Madison wins, if either North Texas or Tulane win, they're going to win their conference. So you're telling me we can have Big 10, SEC, Big 12, AAC, and the SoCon as our 5 conferences that get automatic bids in with no ACC? Virginia's got to win. Virginia has to win here if they want to get in. Again, if Duke wins it, I don't see how they jump James Madison. I don't see how they jump either North Texas or Tulane. So that's going to be very interesting to watch coming up this weekend. A lot of games could really shake up the college football playoff and what they have planned if things don't play out the way they'd like. So college football is going to be very interesting again this weekend as we've got these last championship games going on. I love chaos. I would love to see it if Duke wins and, James Madison, they get in, North Texas or Tulane, they get in, and then somehow, I don't know, Alabama upsets Georgia, then it's just total chaos. So I would love to see that, because then it's like, what do you do with Miami now as well? Right now, it's wild to see kind of what can happen in the college football playoff. So this is, again, where we're at currently. College football going to be very interesting, and we'll talk more about that again probably on Thursday or Friday show about what we'll be doing with those bets. On to the NFL over the weekend. A lot of great games, and something, again, I continue to talk about is my Broncos Super Bowl ticket. They look good. I know it was against Washington. They barely beat them by 1. I know that wasn't the best performance, but they win games. That's what they do. That's all you want to do on a team that you have for the Super Bowl. You want them to win games. So just so we can be clear on where we're at for that Super Bowl ticket, we have a half unit on this one here for Broncos to win the Super Bowl, $50 to win $1,100. So if Broncos can somehow make it all the way, get to the Super Bowl, we've got a nice, little small 22-1 cash there. So we'll continue to be rooting for the Broncos. Their Patriots, they looked good last night. Again, they looked unstoppable. Excuse me. Still getting over that sickness. But Patriots, I mean, they just look like they can't be beat. Again, it wasn't against a great team in the Giants, so we know that. Kind of similar to the Broncos. It was against the Reds or the Commanders, so it's, you can't put too much weight in those. But That's the schedule. The schedule's the schedule. You can't change it. So that's where we are right now. Other than that, I would not be surprised if Eagles drop games and you start to see the Cowboys gain some steam. We talked about the Cowboys a little bit last week. We had them at a plus 3.5. They won outright. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing Cowboys sneak in and beat the Eagles there in the NFC East. That would be pretty crazy to see there. That's all we're going to talk about for NFL. Again, we don't need to spend too much time recapping because we have a lot of college basketball to get into. Over the weekend, though, in the NFL, we did have Jets +3, Seahawks -11. So those two were good. And that's it for the NFL. So college basketball, huge slate of games tonight. We're going to talk a few of them. I don't know if we'll have too much time to get into all of them because there are quite a bit of games, but we'll talk about a lot of the ones that stick out. First one there is number 13, Tennessee at Syracuse. It opened up at about a 6.5, now up to an 8.5. What I was thinking, seeing that 6.5, is that is a very weird line, only being favored by 6.5. It feels like it should be more around these double digits. Now it is up to 8.5, which makes more sense. I would put this thing more to a 9.5. Once you get to 10, then you start kind of saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to be on that one. But I would expect Tennessee here. I mean, we have seen that since Syracuse stepped up in competition over the last, 3 games. They've struggled against Houston, Kansas, and Iowa State that are all much better defensively than the competition that Syracuse faced in the first 4 games. Tennessee looking to bounce back big here after that tough loss against Kansas, giving the game away after being in control most of that game. Syracuse still without big man and league scorer Donnie Freeman, which is going to hurt them in the interior, where Tennessee will really be able to take advantage. Injury-wise, JP Estrella, let me take a look at that. Still questionable. He's been tending to that ankle injury. Now, he did play through that knee injury in the Players Era Festival. Now he's got an ankle injury he's kind of nursing there. With him available, that is going to make it tough for scoring in the paint for Syracuse, as they have been outscored in the paint the last 2 games significantly there. 52-28 versus Iowa State, 34-26 against Kansas. They just can't get it done in the paint. Again, this line really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me when it opened, so I will probably be staying off this game. I mean, to me, all signs point to Tennessee, even with the 8.5. But I wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse somehow pulls off this cover where they really shouldn't have any business doing. Next one we'll get into is Iowa at Michigan State. Iowa there against number 7 Michigan State. Michigan State at around a 5.5. That's where they open. Still haven't seen much movement. Still at a 5.5 here. We've got 2 7-0 teams battling it out. It's probably going to be a nasty, ugly defensive game. Total's pretty low, 133.5, which makes complete sense, as this is what both teams they really want to focus on. But at some point, something's got to give, and it feels like this is a game where the offense will come to play. You know, both teams extremely slow paces. They want to play the half-court type of game. They also pressure opponents very well. They force uncomfortable shots and steals. I mean, the size of Iowa can keep Jackson Kohler off the boards in their interior, occasionally. But that may be a problem for the full game, as Iowa is just one of the worst rebounding teams in the nation. And offensive rebounding is what Michigan State they excel in. No team will really, I think, run away with this one here. So if we do expect it to be close, I would just take the points with Iowa and, let this one come down to free throw shooting at the end. I don't believe I'll have a play on this one here. I would lean Iowa, not comfortably, though, on this. Number 15, Florida at number 4, Duke. 8.5 here, same number as Tennessee, Syracuse, which is kind of weird to me. Duke, being an 8.5, not quite sure how I feel about that number. Now, will they continue to roll here? I mean, Cam Boozer is, of course, doing it all for Duke, leading them in scoring, rebounding, even steals. He's a one-man show. He's got a great supporting cast. However, Florida does have the size to slow down Duke, the best rebounding team in the country in Florida on the defensive and offensive glass. It's not going to be so much of a cakewalk for Duke as the other games have been. What worries me about Florida is this team has statistically been one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the past. Yeah, only 28% from three. That's pretty putrid this season. That's not Florida basketball. What are they going to do? Again, now, last game against Providence, they did improve. They shot 36% from three. So they're going to need that same type of performance here tonight, which they're capable of doing. I think the rebounding and second chance points is going to be an issue for Duke, as this will be the best team they've played all season. I would expect this game to be a fast-paced, up-and-down matchup and can soar over that total of 156.5. If I'm having to take an 8.5-point underdog or favorite here, I probably would not be looking at the Tennessee-Syracuse game. I'd probably be looking more at this Florida-Duke game. Probably lean Florida to cover that big number just because I think matchup-wise, they're going to be a little bit better there going against Duke. Other games we can look at, I kind of circled Purdue, Rutgers, but that 16.5 really does not have a lot of interest to me. It looks like it may be at about a 15.5 now. Purdue just all around is much better than Rutgers. Offensively, defensively, scoring-wise, I don't think there's one statistic that Rutgers has over Purdue. So I really just don't think I would have any play on this one. Looking at the others, another fun one that we will be watching is going to be UConn, ranked number 5 there against number 21 Kansas. UConn slight favorite, -1.5. Now, Terrace Reed was back for UConn last game against Illinois, but it didn't make much of a difference as he only played 15 minutes and scored 2 points on 2 free throws to go along with 5 rebounds. Not a big difference. UConn was able to take care of Illinois. They covered with no problem without much production from him. So I expect the same here, as it's kind of that letdown spot for Kansas. Big comeback win against Tennessee. Now you come home to take on the 5th-ranked team in the nation. Yeah, if you get behind here against UConn, you're not going to be able to come back the way that UConn scores, the way you did there against Tennessee. Shooting nearly 50% from the field and moving the ball around like magicians, that's just going to be completely different from what they saw against Tennessee. I would expect UConn's aggressiveness to be the it factor here tonight, and I would lean UConn. However, we don't know yet the status of Darren Peterson. So if he is able to go tonight for Kansas, I would expect this to be a very different game. I will not be on this one since there are too many unknowns about which players may be in or out. Definitely going to give it a watch, but not going to be on this one again without really knowing what's going on with Darren Peterson and whether or not he's going to be in or out. Couple more interesting ones. I want to talk just quickly about this game of 2 unranked teams. You got Georgia and Florida State. This number is very, very weird to me. Georgia opened at a 2.5-point favorite, down to a 1.5, and I want to double check to make sure I'm seeing this right, because it looks like it has flipped to Florida State now being the favorite over Georgia. So I've got to find the odds just to see currently where we're at with Georgia and Florida State here, because like I said, the odds on this one, you would expect Georgia to be somewhere as a 6.5, 7.5 type of favorite now. And as I'm checking, so yeah, Florida State now is favored. Something's going on with this game. I would only, I was liking Florida State at the 2.5. Now they're a favorite, -1, -1.5. That's very weird line. That one almost tells you just take Florida because just the way that the lines moved. Georgia here is the better team, but Florida State, I don't understand this line. Again, Florida State isn't that great of a team. However, just kind of looking at what they've done, they've lost to Florida by 2. Other than that, they haven't played any great teams. They got destroyed by A&M on Friday there. Why is this line Florida now favored? Why is it flipped to Florida being a favored against Georgia? Doesn't make sense. I would follow that, though. That's sharp money coming in on Florida State. I would take Florida State. That's probably going to be the play that we give out tonight. Just simply for this fact of that line does not make sense. We've seen this enough to know that Florida State here, again, should not be favored. There's a reason now that one sticks out. You've got to learn to be able to read these lines and follow the movement and take Florida State here. Last one I'm going to talk about before we do get into the play of the day is going to be North Carolina, Kentucky. Number 16 there, North Carolina. Number 18, Kentucky. Now, no Diabate, so you lose a lot of rebounding, which is one of Kentucky's strong suits here. It looks like it's down to about a 5.5. It was a 7.5. So now with knowing for sure that Diabate is doubtful, probably out for sure. Not a lot of movement there on Kentucky. North Carolina, we saw them struggle in that loss against Michigan State. Defensively, Kentucky is similar to Michigan State, just not as aggressive. North Carolina, we know they can score. They're able to shoot the three, not very well, but they can shoot the three. The rebounding has been okay for North Carolina. Kentucky, though, overall has just been really the much better team, even though they're 5-2 and North Carolina 6-1. I would lean North Carolina here, but something's telling me that Kentucky does end up winning and covering this short number of, again, where it's around maybe a 5.5 right now. Nothing I would be comfortable with on this one. I would just watch. I would expect Caleb Wilson to have a great game here. Seth Trimble's still out. So, you're not going to get help from him. I just think Kentucky here, even with Diabate out, it's going to be difficult on the interior for North Carolina. So I would lean Kentucky laying the 5.5 there. That's it for today for college basketball. A lot of games going on. Again, the one play that I'm going to give out, I'm going to find what the odds are again right now for that is Georgia and Florida State. So Florida State, if we take them here, where we're looking, find a 1.5. That's going to be the play that we're going to give out. Florida State minus 1.5, minus 103. So let me get that in FSU, minus 1.5. Minus 103. That's the way we're going. Again, this is one of those where you just follow the movement, follow the line. It does not make sense. Florida State, minus 1.5, minus 103. That's going to be the free play. Go to sportbetextra.com where you can get the rest of my plays. I'll have about good 3 or 4 member plays for this evening. You've got a free 7-day trial. You can go there, sign up, get some action, get down there. Again, I use all my plays on Profit X. That's where I check and get all of my action from. Go follow me on X, YouTube at Paul Rami to get live updates there. Plays will be posted within the next 30 minutes to an hour after the show has ended. Good luck today, everybody. I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a good one.